Okay, and the fact that these candidates don't even understand what a sanction is. Like, I mean, Bernie has an idea about what's going on. Like I said, Bernie's rid of the best, but let's look at somebody who knows the best on foreign policy. And I just want to start off by saying too, fam, because I think this is something new to Johnny. We talked about it, but we experienced this in 2016. The way that progressives had to go on Fox just to get some airtime because MSNBC and CNN wasn't providing it. Take a look at a person who knows about some foreign policy.
Tweet.
All right. He has not responded to your allegations or even tweeted a response. But what you did say is, I've never engaged in hateful rhetoric against you or your family, never will. But you're offering our military assets to the dictator of Saudi Arabia to use as he sees fit is a betrayal of my brother and sisters in uniform who are ready to give our lives for our country, not the Islamist dictator of Saudi Arabia. The question I have for you then, Congresswoman, if you become president of the United States, and Saudi Arabia were attacked like it was here, and apparently by Iran, would you not intervene?
I would do what's in the best interest of our country. And as a soldier, I see these things very clearly, seeing what is our goal, what is our objective. And as it relates to Iran, we have two primary objectives. Number one is to make sure that Iran is no longer moving forward towards increasing and building their nuclear weapons capability, as they currently are since the Iran nuclear deal was torn up. And number two, to prevent this all-out shooting war with Iran that it appears we are headed towards. This is important for two reasons. Number one is obviously we've got to make sure we're keeping the American people safe, keep that at the forefront. And we can accomplish these objectives by understanding and realizing that the current strategy has failed. It's not helping us achieve that objective, and therefore we need to re-enter the Iran nuclear agreement and get rid of these crippling economic sanctions that are continuing to escalate this war against Iran.
Well, Iran has been doing this kind of stuff with or what?
Okay.
Yeah, Donald Trump is saying, he's already saying we're going to sanction Iran.
Yeah.
And sanctions are an act of war.
He did put on new sanctions, too. He put on new sanctions on Venezuela. Mike Gravel said on Jimmy Dore's show, these sanctions, and he stopped Jimmy, and he was like, no, Jimmy, you have to understand this. Sanctions are an act of war. We are seeing all these multiple reports. We did reporting on the show the other day. 40,000 people will die, mainly indigenous children, in Venezuela due to our sanctions. That's sanctions that we are imposing. As we put sanctions on Iran, I understand that you might think that they're our enemy, and we're going to watch a little bit more of this video here as the neocons try to play their way up and just paint Iran as bad no matter what. But these sanctions are going to kill poor people in Iran, and it's not right. So I want to watch Neil Cavuto right here. Do you have anything to say, fam, before we watch this next part?
No, I 100% agree with you.
So check out Neil Cavuto, how he tries to paint this picture, and watch what Tulsi does.
Without sanctions, right? With or without a deal, right? So it doesn't seem to matter the occasion or the deal,
true.
right? They're provocative behavior in the Strait of Hormuz and elsewhere, right?
While the Iran nuclear deal was in place, Iran was found to be in compliance, both by our own intelligence agencies, the IAEA, other countries' intelligence agencies. They were complying with that deal, and it was making it so that they were not moving forward towards building a nuclear weapon. Now that that deal has been thrown in the trash, Iran is continuing to move forward.
Well, the nuclear deal notwithstanding, they have always been
escalate.
Provocative, right? So I guess what I would ask you, would you as president then ignore that provocation, deal or no deal? Would you work on behalf with the Saudis? Do you like the Saudis more or less than Iran? What?
It's not about who you like or who you don't like. It's just about, once again, focusing on our objective of keeping the American people safe. What has just happened and transpired over the last few days here didn't just pop up out of nowhere. So we can't look at this in isolation away from what has been happening over the last several months that really was kicked off by President Trump walking away from and throwing that nuclear deal in the trash, increasing crippling economic sanctions that are really hurting the people of Iran most of all, designating their military as a terrorist organization, deploying more of our troops to the region. So there's a number of things that have pushed us all, the world, to this point where we are today.
So let me ask you, do you recognize...
I'm sorry, I had the same reaction as her, like literally laughed.
You did?
Like, it was the same reaction because it's like, that's not what it's about here. Like, you can see what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same typical neocon talk, but she knows, she understands this stuff. And I understand that this is the area where she rises above everybody else. But the fact that our other candidates, a lot of them just don't know squat. I mean, Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren are just so blind on this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they would be just an awful choice. You know what I'm saying? Tulsi, talking about sanctions, talking how it hurts the people, how it really, and this is something we have to understand. I think I'm going to make a show just about sanctions again, maybe with some fun music or something, because people really aren't understanding the crippling effect of sanctions, and they hurt the poor and the children. Go ahead.
It would you could just start by defining it too, because a lot of people might not know.
Can we go one more clip of Tulsi before you get out of here? Okay,
yeah.
let's go. Yes.
Mohammed bin Salman as the leader of Saudi Arabia. Now, I know he was behind a lot of signals point that he was behind the killing of that Washington Post journalist a little over a year ago. But he is still in charge. And others have said you can't pick and choose your leaders of countries you might not like. It is what it is. Would you talk to him? Would you deal with him? Would you, on an attack like this, do something in concert with him?
I think it's important under these and other circumstances to be ready and to have the willingness to talk to leaders of other countries. And yes, I would meet with the leader of Saudi Arabia, as I would meet with the leader of Iran to de-escalate these tensions. And once again, keeping at the forefront what is in the best interest of the United States and how can we best accomplish that objective, which is keeping the American people safe, doing what's in the best interest of our national security. And by pursuing these diplomatic measures, we have the opportunity to then prevent that worst case scenario, which is an all-out shooting conflict war that would cause a devastating cost to the American people, to our troops, countless lives, trillions more dollars, what to speak of the impact and the devastation that would be caused around the region and the world.
All right, so
fam, she knows. She understands what she probably saw the Millennial Challenge 2002, whatnot. She understands how this will be a crippling war. It would kill so many people, the lives of everybody, and it would be a really hard war to win because of the region and the location of Iran. Not just that I think a lot of soldiers nowadays, of course they're going to defend this country, whatnot, but at some point they're going to say, what the hell are we doing being poor people fighting these rich men's war when these people in Iran, and they'll be labeled terrorists, whatnot, but they're going to fight for their country to the death.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? These people are going to fight to the very end. A war with Iran would be devastating economically, humanitarian-wise. It just would be awful.
Yeah, and she gets it, like you say. And not only that, but it would also probably escalate tensions with Russia. It could probably turn into a World War III.
Yes.
And we're always on that little brink right there. And there was a video I recently saw. I don't know who posted it, but it was like, what would happen if Russia and the United States went to war? And like the consequences, 900 million people would die in a matter of hours because nuclear weapons would be launched, and you wouldn't want to be in Europe or Northern America at that point. And war is a very, very, very dire concern. I think a lot of Americans yet don't understand that, and I think the only way we're going to understand that is when something happens. Again, when 9/11 happened, a lot of people started understanding more of why we went into war and with Iraq and now it's kind of like it's been so long that I think people are forgetting like the consequences of that war and what it means. Yeah,
it will be. There's a term that Denzel Washington used in the movie Hunt for. It wasn't Hunt for. It was called Crimson Tide, I think, or something. It was about the Alabama. He said, not nuclear war, nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
And Mike Gravel talked about this alone. You can eliminate all the missiles that are on the surface right now. Just the missiles that are in the submarines between the United States and Russia can blow up the friggin' world like 10 times. I mean, that's the power of the tridents we have underwater. And Mike Unge says, $10, Mikey. We love you,
Thanks,
Mikey.
Mikey.
You. Oh, Tulsi. There you go again, making sense.
Right? And just let me point out that if anybody else was a threat, like the way Tulsi is to the military-industrial complex, they would keep them off the debates too. To me, she's the biggest threat to the military-industrial complex. And look at Gravel.
They got him off the stage quickly, Johnny.
Look what they did to him.
Quickly.
And they're the two most anti-war candidates. Now, Bernie is there, and he has a movement. He has more of an upper hand right now. He's running his second time, and also he has been a little less challenging to that narrative, and I get why he's doing it, because look what happens when you even challenge it to this degree.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to give Bernie a little time before I speak out on that too as well, because I understand that he has this problem where he doesn't want to come off like a socialist, but I don't want him placating to centrists. I'd rather him placate to the children who are going to die from these sanctions. So I hope he does get better on this situation.
He did say he was going to research.
He says he's going to research it, but once again, I would hope that this is something that doesn't need to be researched at this point. But to be fair, Bernie was the original OG. Him on the floor in Congress
80s.
talking about the way the CIA removed Mossadegh really opened my eyes to a lot of foreign policy.
Yeah.
And he was the number one. Remember when he said, "Who are you worried about? Iraq? Who are you worried about? Panama?" You know what I'm saying? That whole thing, that Matt Orfalia, ORF. You type in Matt Orfalia or Orf Beast Mode, Bernie Sanders. Great video. It shows how he's the original OG. Now, he's been paying a lot of attention to what's going on domestically, and he is the champion when it comes to the domestic policy. So I will give him that, but I would hope he gets pushed a little bit further to Tulsi's side. Like I said, the Matt Duffs, those guys, very bad.
Again, this is why I see that Bernie has things that Tulsi doesn't, and Tulsi has things that Bernie doesn't. And honestly, combined, they would be unstoppable, which is, I feel, why the establishment is doing everything they can to keep them apart.
Yeah.
So,
and the push towards Bernie Warren is really disappointing.
Yeah, no, that's
just disappointing.
That's not.
It really is. It should be Bernie and Tulsi all the way.
It. People will not buy that. Believe me.